Hi friends, I'm Scott Giles and welcome to Power Talk, my podcast here on Facebook Live and YouTube. I cover topics related to spirituality, hypno-coaching, and the hypnotic arts and sciences in general. If you'd like to know more about my professional work or sign up for my free e-newsletter, Power Lines, check out my website, which I'll tag at the end of this video. Today I want to talk about an ancient idea, the golden mean. Its origin is in a saying from the oracle in ancient Delphi who said, "Nothing in excess." It was discussed by Plato in one of his dialogues and by Aristotle in his book, The Nicomachean Ethics. The basic idea is that it is wise to avoid extremes in anything. Instead, you try to go down the balanced middle between them, because the middle point is where virtue will tend to lie. As an example, consider human behavior. On one extreme, we have recklessness. On the other extreme, we have cowardice. The middle between the extremes of recklessness and cowardice is the virtue of courage. When you have courage, you are bold and active, but not so bold that you sabotage yourself with carelessness or impulsivity or allow bad stuff to just happen. For Aristotle, the right thing to do is always the virtue that balances the extremes of excess or deficiency. Now, this is not true for everything. There are some things that are always wrong, and it isn't possible to blamelessly do them even in moderation. I mean, it's probably better for someone who has committed murder to have murdered one person rather than many. But that said, murder is always wrong, and there's no golden mean about it. But apart from such ethical absolutes, the goal should be to be a person of balance. You should have self-respect and not be excessively humble. On the other hand, you should not be arrogant either. Finding that balance requires the use of reason, but it is always wise. Consider a chef making a sauce. Now, usually, you're going to need to add salt to bring out the flavor of the ingredients, but you want to avoid the extremes of too much, which would cause the sauce to taste unpleasant and mask the flavor of the underlying food, or the opposite extreme of too little, resulting in a bland product. Now, you can find lots of variations in world literature about this principle. In ancient Crete, there is the story of Icarus, who flew using wings made of wax, warned by his father to fly the middle course, lest the sun melt the wings or the sea spray make them brittle. Nota bene, he goofed and flew too close to the extreme of bright sunlight, and bad things happened. The idea of the golden mean was important to the founding patriots of the American Republic, who were all learned people who had studied classical literature, philosophy, and art. That's why governmental buildings in the United States tend to resemble Greek or Roman temples. They sought to design a system of government that would find a middle way between the chaos of pure democracy, where every decision would be put to a mass vote, and the opposite extreme of monarchy or autocracy. And of course, the Buddha taught his middle way, saying that the path of spiritual development would lie between the extremes of the asceticism he saw among the Hindu religious beggars of his boyhood and the excessive indulgence of the nobility. For those of you who look to the Judeo-Christian scriptures for guidance, I refer you to the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 7, verses 15 and 16, where you are taught to be not righteous overmuch. Now, the teaching isn't not to be righteous, just don't overdo it. The golden mean, a middle way. If your behavior is between the two extremes of excess and deficiency, you'll likely be in a good place. Now, the philosophical person will realize that there's a lot going on here. First, the golden mean implies that a healthy state for anyone, or likely even anything, is one of balance. Your temperature should neither be too high nor too low. The same for your blood pressure or hormone levels. There's a whole theory of health and well-being suggested here. Second, the equilibrium that is sought is understood to be specific to the situation or thing considered. You don't dump a whole cup of sugar into a single cup of tea. That would be excessive. On the other hand, if you're trying to make rum, a cup of sugar in the mix would be deficient. You're going to need more than that. As a single person, having a mix of dating partners might be just the thing. As a person in a monogamous, committed relationship, having a mix of partners would be excessive and a problem. You have to use judgment to decide what is right in a specific situation, because simple rules are for fools. Well, any philosophical concept that has existed for a long time and is basically the same around the world is likely to be valid and trustworthy. If you're looking for something to believe in, you're not going to go wrong by embracing such principles. Or as Aristotle himself said, excellence is never an accident. It is always the result of high intention, sincere effort, and intelligent execution. It represents the wise choice of many alternatives. Choice, not chance, determines your destiny. Now, as I go through my life, I've learned to use the golden mean as a touchstone in my own thinking. The key here is that one can ponder the options one has and self-correct as need be. The golden mean is a rule of thumb to not let oneself walk off the path of balanced living by over or under indulging in anything. If you are trying to strike a balance, you have a much better chance of hitting that balance if you ask yourself where balance is needed. What would be excessive and what goes down the middle? What would be deficient and what would go down the middle? Give it a try. And as you reflect on yourself, you'll be glad that you did. Hey, thank you for your time and attention today. I'll be back next week with another talk on a different subject. You're invited. It does help me if you let others know of my videos, so please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, if I can be of help, feel free to reach out. Have a great week.